right. Uh, Sorry to be on my phone. Take it away, Rachel. You want to share your screen?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So, let me move all the little Zoom thingies off of my screen. Okay, there we go. So today we are looking at 12.888, add Apple Rapid Security Response version to host details. So as an IT or security admin, I want to know which version of macOS my hosts are on, including the RSR version, so that I can know which hosts need updating and pursue those. So I'm proposing this as a backend only change because the RSR version comes from the extra column in the OS query info table. So it's like or sorry, not the or sorry, the OS version. Why did I put that? It's because it's the default, the OS version. So yeah, basically what I'm proposing we do, we need to document that in the in that little side panel, because that column is I think it's like fairly new. It's not documented in there, but it does show up when you do a live query and you see
Right.
the
Well, sorry. Let's be. You might be a little bit more precise in your language. That side panel. What are we referring to? Or can you show me the wireframe in that case? I
I
don't know
don't
what
have a
that side
wireframe
panel.
for this one because it didn't seem
Okay.
necessary.
I don't think someone working on it will know what that side panel means
Yeah.
if that's all they have for as far as context. So let's include what you're
In the
right now
okay.
needs to be in the ticket so that people can understand this asynchronously. Otherwise,
Okay.
we're just going to have unnecessary back and forth about this.
I called it the
So we either
informational
need to
side
be like
panel.
super precise in our language, or we need to include screens. And screens are probably the most efficient way to do that.
Okay. Um, do you think the precision of the informational side panel in the query console, because that's what I actually put in the
Well, but
document.
that's not the only thing that needs to get updated. There's also the fleetdm.com/.
Oh yeah,
There's a
because
source kind of like YAML that powers both of these, but that like we're framing it in a way that doesn't really show that we understand the product.
okay, so we need to update. Okay, so to do show so just like should I wireframe the or should I make a draft PR with updating the YAML then?
I
Add it.
I don't know. I just like all I'm saying is that the goal of this meeting is for me to approve it and settle these things. And like
Okay.
now, the way you're framing it to me, if I'm someone CEO of this company that spends every single day looking at what's changing in the product, if I can't follow what you're saying, I don't think we can expect anyone else to.
Okay. So I'm wondering if in that case if I should bring this back tomorrow after I've made that draft PR.
No, you can talk me through it or edit it live, like whatever you want. Let's use the time so that we get
Okay.
value
So
from it. But like, I think what I'm saying is that you saying editing the bar is not clear. I think we either need to present this completely from, we either need to kind of treat it as a bug, which I'm still not actually sure, like based on what you, because we passed on the user story. Can you go back to the user story?
yes. So we just the user story
I just
is
want to, can we let's read loud. As an IT or security admin, I want to know which version of macOS my hosts are in, so I can know. So yeah, I think we started getting into the like, sorry, you read it. We got into the details here, but like this user story is like, what are we talking about? As an IT or security admin on what page? Like what?
here.
What does this mean? The host details. So this has nothing to do with the query sidebar,
This has
right?
yeah, it doesn't. I guess that's kind of a
Yeah, it doesn't have anything to do with. So we need to be in the wireframes here. Yeah.
okay.
Okay, so show me the change to the UI.
Okay. And this is the change to the UI is like you'll start to see this like little like A or whatever
Sure.
next to
Yeah.
versions.
We definitely need to see these. Sorry to interrupt. We need to see these wireframes when we make changes like this.
Okay.
Otherwise,
Do I
it's not
need
clear what we're talking about, and you're gonna have a lot of conversation like the one you just had with me, versus like you show me this picture and I understand it in 2 seconds.
okay. And I'm proposing we do this as a back end change. So
I
like
don't know if that really is what we should be saying from product design perspective.
okay.
Is it what as a user I want to see a little like a parentheses after, like we need to say exactly what can be there and then where it will show up.
Yeah. So um sorry, yeah. I can yeah, I can start rethinking this. I was thinking we just include it in
Right, so I
this.
don't understand. You're talking a lot about implementation details, but I want to see what the difference is for the UI.
The different Okay. So the UI is in this table where it's
And as a
just
developer, I also want to see how it's different from in the terms of the UI too, just to be clear. Like I did the goal, the me being the audience here is the same as the developer being the audience, right? So I just need to understand what it is you're trying to change.
okay. So version on its own like this gets an A.
Okay. And where am I right now?
This
Yeah,
is
I can't see because we keep zooming in. Okay, so this is the dashboard. This is the logged in home. As a user on the logged in home, I want to see a new parenthetical suffix after every operating system version.
not after every operating system version.
Okay.
Only if it's
Getting closer though, right?
only if
That's the
there's
level of like superficiality in terms of what page I'm on that can be helpful here, I think.
okay.
I think that this user story is too broad and leaves it kind of open ended. I think we need to I think as we design, we need to like punch in a little bit closer on the user story. So like
Okay.
as a user, as an IT or security admin, that doesn't really matter. As a user of Fleet on the as a clause in the user story is mostly focused on like where am I and what am I seeing, right? Like I think and if I'm a role. In this case, this is true for everyone, isn't it?
Yeah.
So let's go back and edit the user story, please. Awesome. So as a IT or security admin on, because I think making this user story anywhere that we ever show a host or everywhere we ever show an OS version, it's like that's not a actionable requirement, right? Or it's like that's like something that's will not be tested fully, will not be developed fully, and probably will not even be designed fully. Does that make sense? Like it's
Yeah.
an impossible thing. So part of what we need to do during the design process is we need to refine that to make it specific enough to where someone can actually say, I did that. And someone else can say, I tested that. And everybody is talking about the same thing.
Okay. So
So let's get there.
that answers my question here because I was like, there's other pages that show this where it's like the exact same format and stuff. Do I need to wireframe those? So I will do wireframes for all of the screens where this shows up.
Please. Yeah. Because otherwise, no one's going to know what we're talking about.
Okay.
And you can certainly take when we say wireframe, it could be a screenshot that you draw on in red pen. It doesn't even matter, but it's like this whole conversation could have been completely short circuited in like half a minute if we had all the screens. And that's going to be true for every step down the chain, every expensive handoff between kind of like the person whose idea this is and the person like I guess that's the other thing is I would love to be finding out who is bringing these user stories in terms of the individual human flesh each time as well. So like, where is this one coming from?
Let's see.
Like, who's the requester basically? It should be at the bottom. I see 3 customers. We don't have to talk about who they are, so this can be published on YouTube. I'd like this one to be published on YouTube, actually.
Yeah.
I think it would be helpful because I think this is the thing we run into a lot and something that was hard-won knowledge. Looks like we have 3 customers requesting this. Who is the person at Fleet who's taking ownership over it?
Zay.
I think it's Zay. Okay, makes sense. Is that under the requester? Because I know that was a big thing where we wanted to add requester to this template.
Oh yeah, here we go.
Sweet. Okay. So takeaway for me is that adding a requester doesn't really make that much of a difference because you got to train everybody where it is. But we'll get there. Cool. Got it. So Zay is our kind of DRI or like she's like the kind of the requester here. We have 3 customers that are interested in this, and we're editing user story now together. Right?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, what pages? And are we going to explicitly say anywhere I can ever see a host OS version? Let's be explicit though. What we mean. Like I want to know doesn't tell me about the user journey, right? Like that's like then we have to punch that in. So why don't we, instead of editing that line, edit the first line and tell me where I am as an IT or security, as a user on the blank page or the blank page. Or you could say everywhere I'm doing this, everywhere I see an OS version. Which of them is it, Rachel?
Or
As a user?
a
On
user
which pages? Are there certain
looking at a
pages,
host
or are we
OS
gonna say? Go ahead.
any
Sorry.
oh I put as a user looking at a host OS version anywhere in the UI.
Okay, yeah, that is not the best, but that would work. That would be better than what we had because that at least makes it clear that oh wow, we're dealing with the user story that hasn't been figured out yet, right? And then you're figuring that out in the designs, which is fine. I don't necessarily want to recreate the work of you having to list all these things out in both places, right? But there's going to be more people who read this than click on the wireframes, just to be clear, right? So I would like, can you tell me right now what those pages are that need to be updated?
Yeah, so there's the the macOS dashboard, there's the host detail, and there is
OS dashboard. I never heard of that before. Excuse me. What's that? Go ahead. There's a delay. Sorry. What's the macOS dashboard? Does that mean logged in home?
Yeah, when you are filtering
macOS dashboard. I've never heard of macOS dashboard.
All right, I'll call it logged in home.
Cool. Yeah, it's important to have consistent language that we use. So logged in home.
Okay, log.
Awesome. Okay, so as a user on the logged in home page or the host details page, or and I'm not saying the user story has to be like this at first, but as we design, whether or not it's actually in the story or we express it in the wireframes, this is the level of clarity we're trying to provide. If we just say, if we set the precedent that it's okay to say anywhere, like change the backend, like that's not a user story, right? Cool. So we want to change it on this page.
They want to add a new field and just like add that on in the
And what about all the API endpoints related to this? Are those also going to update? Like that's fine. You don't have to necessarily like
yeah, I think I was like
honestly, I say I think you do. I think for us to ship a good product, I think we need to like go and find all of the places in the API as well. Because I'm thinking of like, for example, like in the dashboard that we have for one of our customers built on top of the Fleet API, like is that going to behave well with this? Like, is there code in there that's doing if checks on certain macOS versions to add like the word Catalina in front? Is this going to break those checks? I don't know.
And I looked at like the sort of I mean, yeah, probably not relevant because like this will come up with the engineering team and they'll make the final decision. But like,
wait, what decision? What are we talking about?
Oh, just like how it's implemented. But like, I was thinking of it as being like a backend only change. I think so. Version string is because that like version is like a string. It's like it's usually like has like a Simvera look to it, but there are like other things.
I understand, Rachel, but you don't know, and you're never going to be aware of all the places that that might be getting used in the code. And so we either need to communicate in terms of what like the end user experience is and the user journey, or we need to communicate like in a way that's clearly broad and is clear that we have not figured that out yet. But we can't communicate in a way that seems like I think you see what I'm saying? Like it's not. We don't know if me and Eric added code that is using a regex that isn't going to support this new format, this new suffix, when it adds the word Catalina on the end in the dashboard, for example. I don't even remember if that's true, but it might be. I know I was doing it for the M1 chips, for example.
Oh yeah.
So that's where I'm kind of like, yeah, this is like one of the entire points of having the design process is to figure this out ahead of time so that when I'm as a developer, I'm trying to move as fast as humanly possible and I'm trying to like get these things shipped. I like having clarity on like what's changing. It will make me move faster.
So other than those two that are wireframes, there's an MDM page, this macOS versions. So this is in the same format as
this is on the control tab,
controls. Yeah, controls tab. So this.
So yeah, this would be
version right here.
this and just put it down. could take a screenshot of this and put a dev note on it, or you could edit it in the inspector and take a screenshot of it, and then you would be done with this page.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool.
Then
I realize there's some tedium here, but it's necessary to avoid. The thing that's even more tedious is waiting like 2 days back and forth between multiple people asynchronously and not getting to the bottom of this, or having to escalate to multiple calls later to try to figure out something that we could have kind of made clear from the beginning, right?
Then yeah, the other place is the. Oh wait, why did I click on the Figma? That's very silly. The other place is manage hosts because we showed the
And the
operating.
API and the CLI.
Yeah. Should those be should I wireframe those or do a draft PR, you reckon?
I don't care.
Yeah. Well, I guess I can't really do a draft PR because like I don't know if we necessarily want to change the example because I think I looked at the examples and they were all like Linuxy stuff.
I don't know what we're talking about right now.
Sorry. The draft PR would be to change like the example response, at least with what I'm
I don't know what we're talking about right now, Rachel. Are you talking about in the API?
It would be a draft PR. Yeah, I
Okay.
should stop because I'm not making sense. So operating system. Okay, and then
yeah, I think we should concisely clarify exactly what's changing in all the places. I think that you and I discussed and we talked about that it was important to get the like CLI interface changes clear in the design process, right? And I think what is like an open question is how much we're going to do that for the API ahead of time. It does seem like from when I've reviewed like footage of our calls from the CX and the MDM team that we spend a considerable amount of time going back and forth about API design after, and it may be the place where we're wasting the most time right now as a team. So I would say there's a good chance that that is going to change very soon, and we'll shift that left kind of in the process, so that we have clarity and there's no like this. There's no need to kind of like hop back and forth between like 10 different people to make decisions. We'll just have one person that makes decisions, very likely. But until then, I have no opinion. So go whichever direction you want. But I think that's certainly what is making the most sense to me. And in this case, like, I think if you want to just show that, like, hey, in the API, like the API is part of how people use the product, and they were going to be getting a rapid security response. Like, this is something that could affect any downstream tool built on top of Fleet, right? Like, there's questions like, is this a breaking change that comes to mind for me?
Mm-hmm.
I think probably not. Like if this was Sales.js, I wouldn't call it a breaking change. So I don't think we should here.
Because like what is in that string is not like guaranteed to be like a Semver.
Is it or not? What's in the docs?
But we document things that aren't just like pure Semver strings as that version, like in the example like responses for the API.
Such as?
Huh? Such as here, I'll pull it up right now. Like so here's the version 16.4.4.
Yeah, cool.
0,
good.
Yeah. So
it sounds like it's not a breaking change.
Yeah.
And as far as whether or not to do it as a draft PR, Rachel, yeah, I'm not sure. Up to you.
Yeah, because I was thinking I'd do a draft PR, but then I was like, oh, these are like, would that look weird in this example? Because these are all like Linuxy things, and I don't know if it'd be weird to just like plop a macOS version in this list, or I need to look at the example a little more closely.
Okay. Yeah, get to where you know.
Yeah. All right. So
I think I'm supportive of your change, though. Is there any other changes you want to show me today?
Nope, that's it.
I just want to make sure we go through that process, right? So you'll have basically gone through all of the spots. This is also going to make it so that, hey, like, man, if I'm the developer that's picking up from you, boy, will I be able to take a breath of, fresh air. It's like, well, or breathe a sigh of relief because I know that someone has already gone through all the places. And like, doesn't mean I can like relinquish responsibility for trying to check. Like, we want our user story to capture the goal. But before we wrap up, Rachel, would you go back to the user story?
Yes.
So now can we keep it still? Okay, as a user story looking at host OS version anywhere in the UI. So like that was a good improvement because now if I'm the developer and I'm reading that, I realize that I'm responsible for making sure that's still true. What about the API though? And what about the C? So should this say anywhere in the UI, REST API, and CLI?
Yes.
And what's the change here? I already know which version of macOS my hosts are on. That's not really necessary in this user story, right? I want to
Yeah,
know.
I want the RSR version included in.
Yes, that's an appropriate level of fidelity included in my whatever.
Uh, I want,
Host tonight. Yeah, it's fine. You could even just say included. I think it's clear. Although you may not know what RSR version
yeah.
is. Included in the existing string, right?
Yeah.
And we don't even necessarily need to say that. Okay, that's probably getting too specific. Sorry, but like that's what your designs are going to show, and your designs are going to show us where all these places are, right?
Yeah.
So that why do I need to see the RSR version included so that I can?
Yeah, so I can know which hosts need updating.
That doesn't. I'm not convinced. So that I can know that.
So that I can know which hosts have not yet updated. Or
That sounds. I think that makes sense.
yeah.
What am I going to do about it?
Probably bug those people, be like, hey, there's like a crazy vulnerability in iMessage where if you see an image preview, you might have stuff installed on your computer. Like,
yeah, probably not because I'm probably in IT and that's the kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's probably not
without actually doing the work. But like I think because they would do it, they would sort of be the ones that would be raising the flag on this, whereas IT is trying to like deal with it. But I just want to ask the question. Then you said so I can know which hosts need updating. Is that it, or is it so I can see which hosts have already updated to the new RSR version? Right? Isn't that why? And there may be rare cases, but I think isn't the normal case since RSRs aren't supposed to happen? Isn't the normal case where someone is either not on the RSR because there's no RSR, or occasionally an RSR version will be published as like a special patch, and then most of the time there won't be a second RSR. So I would actually reframe that to say so I can know which hosts have already been updated to the RSR. Unless you disagree.
No, I think that makes sense.
Okay, cool. That to me, so as a user looking at a host OS version anywhere in the UI REST API or CLI, I want the macOS RSR rapid security response. Good. Thank you for expanding that version included so that I can know which hosts have already been updated to the RSR version, I guess. Yeah, cool. Thanks. That's clear. And then whatever those other bullets are after don't need to exist anymore, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Unless you just think I think that just makes it so people don't look at the wireframes though.
Yeah.
Which I understand that's kind of been like,
and also there's
we need everyone on the team to be very fluent and comfortable looking at the wireframes. So I think we can go ahead and just have them look at the wireframes. Now would you go ahead and save it? So the UI changes I don't see linked from the story, Rachel. So that's probably part of the problem. That's probably why we're linked, like we're kind of reinventing or recreating the requirements here in this issue is because we haven't copied this Figma link and posted it under UI changes yet.
Yeah.
So before we review from now on, I want to make sure that if we're going to look at wireframes, that we always make sure that they're linked correctly in the issue first.
Okay.
It's important for people to be able to contribute and see what's changing in the products. For open source, this is supposed to be public.
Okay.
It's supposed to be discoverable. I know it's public.
So even before they're
settled, I should actually discover. Sorry.
Okay, so I should link to the wireframes before they're settled in the issue.
Every single time, as soon as you start.
Okay.
Yeah, this is open source. Everyone should be able to see what's going on, including the public. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I wasn't sure if we wanted to wait until like they'd been actually
no.
People doing
Never. Everything is in draft. Get it live and public as soon as possible.